M. Night Shyamalan's Trap is the most optimistic I've been for one of his movies in a long time. Almost all of his movies tend to be a mix of genuinely intriguing and suspenseful ideas with some questionable and awkward elements thrown in, and the audience just kind of has to hope that the ratio skews enough towards the former.
It could be bad. It could be good. And that fills them with fear.
Trap, though, was a movie that I was legitimately excited for. Judging from the trailer, it had an innovative premise, interesting characters, engaging performances, good music, and a tension-filled plot with a perfect amount of legitimate humor added in. The thought of it being bad was still in the back of my mind, but the trailers did leave a good impression. And after seeing it, yeah, I enjoyed it. And it did have a lot of the positive qualities that I was hoping it would have. But at the same time, I may have let my optimism run away with me a small bit because at the end of the day, it's still a Shyamalan film. It's gonna be a little uneven whether it's good or not, and that's something that I may not have fully prepared myself for. But okay, to start with the good, the movie's main strength is its characters. Josh Hartnett as Cooper makes for a great leading antagonist. He exudes a great amount of confidence and charisma, but also a lot of subtle aggression and calculated intimidation, playing this serial killer living a double life as an everyday family man and trying to escape a concert venue surrounded by the FBI. He's an engaging character to focus on because you get so many different vibes from him. On the one hand, he's kind of endearing as this father who enjoys spending time with his daughter and wants the best relationship he can have with her.
Wait! I got time to shoot.
No dad jokes, this is serious, come on.
I'm sorry.
On the other hand, though, it does make him all the more frightening knowing that this unassuming, pleasant enough guy has such a dark, sadistic side to him, that such a dangerous and cruel person really could be anyone in the crowd. But on the other hand, the way he navigates around getting caught by the police with so much cunning and swagger makes him kind of fascinating. It's cool to see the gears turn in his head as you wonder how he's going to escape the FBI to the point where you're almost rooting for him. It's a difficult balance to strike, especially with a director whose ability to direct his actors ranges anywhere from absolutely brilliant to laughably pathetic.
It makes you kill yourself. Just when you thought there couldn't be any more evil that could be invented.
But Hartnett pulls off the character really well. Everything from his wholesome, loving dad side to his conniving, evil schemer side.
Never let the two lives touch.
But that also kind of leads me to my biggest issue with the movie. While seeing this character thinking on his feet and outwitting the FBI is entertaining to watch, there isn't a great amount of escalating tension throughout the story. Most of the scenes manage to be moderately tense, but there aren't a lot of instances of the odds getting raised against him. It rarely feels like the FBI are closing in on him or like he needs to take more desperate or extreme measures to stay unsuspected. There are moments where he'll cause a distraction by setting traps for members of the crowd, but these end up being pretty self-contained events that don't largely affect the wider setting. It's a shame because a concert venue with 30,000 people has a lot of potential for someone like Cooper to cause a mass panic, and it would be interesting to see him going to increasingly disruptive means of trying to escape. As it stands though, we see the FBI on Cooper's tail, but there isn't much of a shifting power dynamic, and the Battle of Wits doesn't evolve a ton in terms of scale or strategies from either side. The FBI just keep arresting suspects, and Cooper just keeps looking for a way to sneak out of the venue. Honestly, you can get the gist of the conflict just from watching the trailers. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy watching the events shown in those trailers allowed to properly play out, but the clash between Cooper and the cops doesn't have much in the way of surprises, which is weird considering surprises are kinda Shyamalan's thing.
We have to add some twists and stuff.
Quite honestly, I found myself more invested in the tension between Cooper and his daughter Riley. Throughout the movie, she doesn't know that her dad is a serial killer, which adds some personal stakes to Cooper's journey. It serves as a legitimate challenge for him since she's the one thing stopping him from freely moving around the venue without explanation. In order to keep his other life a secret from her, he has to continually make excuses for this extremely erratic and suspicious behavior.
Is something wrong, Dad?
No. I'm just excited for you is all.
Throughout the movie, you're constantly wondering how is he going to explain running all over the place to his daughter and how long before she realizes who he really is. There's also concern on an emotional level too. Riley is basically the one thing humanizing Cooper and the only thing keeping him somewhat likable despite him being an objectively terrible person. So while obviously it's in everyone's best interest that this violent criminal be arrested, there is a certain level of stressfulness for it because you don't want to see this happy father and daughter be torn apart. Not to mention, when you see how excited Riley is to be at this concert and how happy this makes Cooper, there is the sense of dread that this day is going to be ruined for her by her dad constantly wandering off, dragging her around aimlessly, and pulling these weird escape attempts.
Dad, what are you doing?
But while the main aspects of the plot are fairly solid for the most part, there are a number of little things that either don't flow incredibly well or aren't really given much of a purpose. The movie gives a couple of sideways glances towards Cooper's backstory and his reasons for being a killer, with some vague stuff about a difficult relationship with his mother as a kid, which, Shyamalan, I think you kind of already did that. I mean, I suppose it could work if it was fleshed out, but it has such a minimal role in the story that it might as well not even exist. There's even a scene later on in the film where a young female character tries to subdue Cooper by triggering memories of his mother, which, I mean, again... Except Cooper just tells her that it isn't working and the scene moves on as normal, so why was this even included? There's a minor character who is the mother of a girl that Riley knows, who has a couple passive-aggressive conversations with Cooper, unaware that she's irritating a literal murderer and putting herself at risk. She's mildly entertaining, but she doesn't serve much of a role in the story and could have been very easily cut with little hassle. I don't have much to say about her besides that, she's just kind of there. And there are a couple of instances throughout the movie where Cooper evades getting spotted in a way where it doesn't seem feasible that nobody would notice. Part of me thinks that might be the point, how he's just so clever and sneaky that even we, the audience, can't comprehend how he pulls it off.
He does that.
But I feel like if that's what the movie was going for, it's not made particularly clear, and it kind of just comes across like these moments weren't staged very well. Thankfully though, despite the ups and downs of the movie throughout a lot of its runtime, the last third, in my opinion, is legitimately great. If you want to avoid spoilers, skip to the time on screen.
I want to tell you my secret now.
So in the last third of the movie, Cooper has managed to sweet talk his and Riley's way into the concert venues backstage and meeting the star of the show, Lady Raven, played by Shyamalan's daughter, Salika. Seeing no other way out, Cooper reveals himself to her as the killer, threatening her into escorting them out without attracting security. She initially complies, but then starts to turn the tables on him, escorting him to his house and slowly revealing his crimes to the police and his family. And it's here where we see Cooper at his most desperate and where we finally get to see his true colors. Over the course of a few scenes, Cooper goes from subtly intimidating her without arousing suspicion in front of his family to violently lashing out at her in front of them as she's exposing him to the world. It's a legitimately terrifying moment from Josh Hartnett as we see him going from calmly and matter-of-factly explaining who he is to her to violently lashing out at her as we see exactly what he's capable of. Not to mention that it's a great culmination of the story arc between him and Riley as he unleashes every bit of violence within him while his family are bewildered and scared. He's just doing whatever's necessary to not get captured and praying to God he can explain away his actions later. Although, if I want to be fair, it's not exactly great storytelling that Lady Raven, who's essentially been a background character for most of the movie, out of nowhere basically just becomes the main protagonist in the climax. It's just a little jarring and also undermines a little bit of tension when you're expected to focus on the safety of a character you don't really know. I don't want to assume what Shyamalan's intentions were throughout this because obviously I don't know him and I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt. But it does kind of look a certain way that the ultimate hero of the story who gets a ton of focus in the climax is the character played by his aspiring daughter. I won't act like I'm certain of what he's doing, but it wouldn't be the first time he's seemingly based his casting decisions on self-validation.
Your book will be the seeds of many of his great thoughts. It will be the seeds of change.
If I can make a suggestion for how I would have handled this differently and perhaps have the story flow a little better, I think Lady Raven in this sequence should have been replaced with Riley. Throughout the movie, have Riley become more and more suspicious of her father and in the climax finally realize who he is. Then throughout the climax, she could try to keep her cool while Cooper tries to talk her out of calling the police, becoming more desperate and aggressive in the process, while she tries to escape him and contact the authorities. I think this would be an improvement because it would build upon the character dynamics that we've been focusing on throughout the movie, showing how it develops now that the situation has changed. It would add some extra depth to the climax, presenting a challenge to Cooper as the one person who can stop him is also the one person he's unwilling to hurt. And it would make the relationship between the two feel all the more tragic. But that's not to say that Cooper and Riley don't have an impactful ending together, because they actually have a very heartfelt scene towards the end where Cooper is being taken away by the FBI. She's obviously very upset learning that her father is a violent, psychopathic, and evil man instead of just the wholesome dad she always knew him as. But even after feeling betrayed and scared of her own father, she runs up to him and hugs him, knowing that it'll be the last time she ever sees him out of prison. Obviously, she'll never look at her dad the same way, and nor should she for that matter, but in spite of that, she still loves him and wants nothing more than for everything to go back to normal. I love it because it's such a realistic reaction for her to have. It can be heartbreaking to learn that someone you love isn't the person you think they are, but at the same time, your feelings towards them don't immediately turn off. You're bound to feel conflicted, and that's captured beautifully here. It's sequences like this why, in spite of everything, I still like M. Night Shyamalan. Sure, he's disappointed me a lot of times, and I can't be sure he won't again in the future, but whenever those moments where everything aligns shows up, it reminds me exactly why I'm a Shyamalan fan. Trap isn't perfect, and maybe I got a little overexcited before it came out, but it has enough going for it that I'm reasonably satisfied, and I think it came together very well. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want to see my next video even sooner, I upload everything I make early to my Patreon, as well as posting the full completed scripts of all my videos several days before the video gets released. Consider supporting me and you'll get to see all of that, as well as a personal thank you from me at the end of every video, and some alternate thumbnails I made while working on the videos.